update us on the status of matters TVET assessment and certification. This is a very genuine discussion that we need to have in this country where we are experiencing a huge skill gap. Why do we have to have workers coming from abroad? Because we can't produce some workers in our countries through these TVET institutions. What has been done to empower these institutions in the country and also their uptake in the country? Are young people, anxious and willing enough to go into these TVET institutions? That and many more we shall be discussing in the next 1 hour. But right now we start with the ground, because when you build a house, we start with the foundation. Brian George Otieno, what do we have on the ground?
Thank you so much, Noah Kipkeboy. I can hear you loud and clear from the studio. Now, today we are at St. Kizito in Mwihoko. This is a technical vocational training center. And just to give you some background, Noah, that in 1999, the meeting or the global meeting on TVET's Congress that took place in South Korea, put into effect the technical vocational and training centers. Now, later on in Bonn, Germany, they were officiated as being official that TVETs were now being recognized as part of the human resources, part of the as a human capital in the world. Years on, that is almost 14 years later, Kenya joined in to officiate or to pass a parliamentary act, the Technical Vocational and Education and Training Centers, that is the TVET Act of 2013. And that is why we are here. That act put into place additional training and additional content and curriculum for training of human resource here in this country. And that is why we have around 6 universities under the TVET Act. We have over 81 institutions under this same act. Now, one of them is Kizito, right here in the middle of Mwihoko in Githurai. As you can see, if my camera person can just pan around a little, we are having a lot of workstations and students who are being trained at these places. This is just in tandem with the Sustainable Development Goals 4, which focuses on equal and equitable education for all. Now, the main reason why the government chose to do this is because there was the stigma around people going to technical institutions and other tertiary education systems. Because all along in Africa, people are trained to go to university. But the government noticed that we are lagging behind in some resources, in some human resources, like plumbing, things like arc welding, hairdressing, which are being recognized as very pivotal in the economic situation of Kenya, in the building of an economy and also in the building of human capital, as I had hinted earlier on. So Noah, that is why we are here today, to give special focus and emphasis on TVETs, on the funding, on the resources that are allocated here. We have seen the government allocate a lot of resources towards the training of students, of learners here at TVETs, and that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to show you what the students have been doing. We understand that there's also an assessment exam that is happening here today by CDAC, that is the Curriculum Development Assessment Council. And we're going to just give you a feel of what it is like being in a TVET, and we're going to talk to the directors, the CEO, we're going to talk to a few learners, and of course a few of the assessment officers and trainers that are here. So that is just a bit of the background. As you can see, my camera guy is now showing you some of the projects that these people have been working on. Amazing, amazing projects in mechanics, mechatronics, hairdressing. We'll be able to show you a lot more of electronics, and we'll be able to give you a feel of what it is like being in a TVET. Assessing some of the gains that have been made since the launch in 2013, and of course giving you so much more in terms of this and getting perspectives from teachers to the learners and to the Curriculum Development and Assessment Council directors. Noah.
Definitely, Brian George Otieno. What a detail, and I'm looking forward to see you, wearing those regalias and joining the workforce, and contributing. But right here in studio, we have Professor Ndieki, who's the chair of TVET CDAC, that is the Curriculum Development Assessment and Certification Council. Remember, in 2019, in November, some new courses were unveiled. That is the competency-based, curriculum for TVET institutions. Now is 1 year down the line. Professor, so far, how's the implementation of this competence-based education for TVET institutions?
Thank you, Kim Komboy, for having me at the KTN studio. And let me try to make the public understand what is TVET CDAC. TVET CDAC, and I can just explain, CDAC means Curriculum Development, Assessment, and Certification Council. And as the name goes, is that we are dealing with the curriculum development of TVET institutions, assessment of the same, and giving certificate of the graduates of those courses. Now, this came about after the enactment of TVET Act 2013, which was passed, I think, the year 2013, and the implementation of the same started, I will say, January 2016. That's when TVET CDAC was recognized by the government fully to start operating. Mm-hmm. Since that time, we have been involved in developing the curriculum using what we call occupational standard. Now, the occupational standard are the standards that are developed by CDAC in collaboration with the industry. Because previously, all the courses that we have been doing, it was just, I would say, supply-led rather than demand. Now, what happens now is that we realize that industries or employers were complaining that the graduates that we give, they are not up to standard. They don't have the skills that they require. So what we need to change from the traditional curriculum to competency-based education and training. And maybe I would just correct you, the competence-based curriculum that started last year, 2019, is for basic education, not tertiary education, which we are dealing with. Ours started 2016. Okay. Now, that's when we started working on this curriculum, and then because the curriculum which are based on competency-based education and training are more involved as opposed to competency-based curriculum which is for basic education. The involvement, as I want to mention, is that first you develop the curriculum from occupational standards, which are developed with the assistance of the industry, because the industry are the user of the graduate, and therefore they have to tell us exactly what the graduate require. And then, again after that, we now interpret the occupational standard into curriculum by converting them into what we call learning outcome. And this one we use now, curriculum developers, and all these people. TVET CDAC is the one which has trained all these people, because competency-based education and training was a completely new item in Kenya. And we had a very, very difficult time starting something from nowhere. We had to train people to know what it means by competency-based education and training. We had to train people how to assess the trainees, which you are going to see, as Otieno was mentioning. We had to develop what we call learning guides, which could assist the trainers so that they can be able to follow and interpret the curriculum properly. Now, there were so many challenges which we involved, which we got, as you notice that because of the items involved in the curriculum, which is competency-based, is that we have to spend a lot of money getting the employers. And luckily for us, employers have been very cooperative. All the time that we have been developing this curriculum, every time we call them, especially for validating the curriculum itself, yes, they always come. In fact, at one time we had more than 430 KSMSE, yes, and that was very, very good.
So, and Professor, if I may just cut you short there, even before we go to the challenges, the issue of being industry-driven, where the curriculum that you're coining is is demand-driven, not supply-driven, as you mentioned earlier. What are some of these key areas, if you may elaborate for us, that have really stood out in terms of demand?
Okay, the key areas, as I think was mentioned, is that in this country we don't have enough, for example, plumbers. I think those are some of the key areas. We don't have enough electricians. We don't have enough even masonry. Now, carpenters, we don't have. We have some people, but they are not really, they are not provisions. And the reason why we had to change is that we have to make sure that the people who have been trained through the competency-based curriculum have got all the necessary skills, the necessary knowledge, and the necessary attitude. This is very, very important, because this is what actually the employers look at, especially when they employ someone, whether the person is really willing to work, whether the person can be converted to do any other work. You know, you can be a plumber, but you can be asked to do electrical work. Is it possible? When your attitude towards work is good, that is very important. And that's why the competence, the word competence, has three aspects. That is the knowledge,
yes,
the skills, and the attitude, or worker behavior. The behavior of the worker is extremely very important.
Definitely. And those, you know, they're called soft skills. Oftentimes when we talk about, you know, TVETs, we are thinking about, you know, the tangible skills. But in terms of developing this curriculum, what are some of these soft skills that you're intentionally, because even looking at statistics, Prof, you find that majority of soft skills that we earn in life, in the work and in school, actually it takes more than 50% to develop that. Then in the working environment, maybe you find it helps you develop 30% of that. So school is very critical, is very central. How much and how intentional is the curriculum to impart these soft skills?
Thank you, Kemkamboy. I think that's a very, very valid question, which very many, especially employers, have always wanted to know. Now, if we go to our curriculum, the competency-based education and training, we have made sure that there is what we call basic competences. And these basic competences are like employability skills. That brings in things like communication, teamwork, okay, negotiation, integrity, and also the accountability which you require for someone who's employed, and discipline. Now, then we have things like numerical competency, illiteracy, we have for digital illiteracy, and then we have also environmental and safety. Now, some of these have been mentioned in our constitution, because they need to have this for every employee, whether you are in history, whether you are in agriculture, whether you are in engineering, those ones are compulsory. And therefore, all the curriculum, they have that. Then, besides, we have special, what we call technical skills now, which are what we may call core competency, which are for a particular or specific area. Let's say if it's plumbing, there are certain technical subjects that are going with the heart. But then the other one, the common one, they cut across. And that's why now these people, when they go out, they are actually employable. Let me put the word employable. In the sense, they can be able to communicate, because communication is a key in the soft skills. And also, their integrity is up, and they can be able to sell the name of the company.
Definitely. Prof, you've been doing this for over 40 years. You know, we were discussing this earlier on, and we were comparing my age with the 40 years we've been doing this, and it was just hilarious. But over the 40 years, there's been change. We've seen technological evolution. For you, looking at you know, the technical, the TVET space in this particular country, I meant to understand early in the days, in the 70s, 80s, it was something that was very focused on. Then we lost our way, and now we are finding our way back. When did the rain start beating us?
Okay, let me thank you for that question. In fact, if I give a case of myself, I'm one of those people who went to started TVET right at the beginning from diploma. Then I went all the way to higher diploma, to degree, to master's, and to PhD. So now, then the question is what beat us? That's the question which you have asked. When we started, before, in fact, during the colonial, the colonialists started schools like Kabete, where they were training people on skills. And these skills were meant to do their work. They were meant to do their work, not necessarily to develop Kenya as per se, because the companies we had here were mainly from Britain. And therefore, they were to train people who could be able to do the work that they wanted. But then as we went on, TVET became very important, and we started having like Kenya Polytechnic, if you remember, and then Mombasa Polytechnic. Those are the two institutions, TVET institutions we were started in those days. And this is where we started offering technician and diploma courses. And that time, we were following, I would say, the system that is in German now, a dual system, where you go to industry, work for maybe about 3 months, then come back to Polytechnic, you work maybe for 6 months, you learn for 6 months, and you go back that way. And in that manner, we ended having graduates with very good skills and also some knowledge. However, in those days, still, we did not have soft skills incorporated into the curriculum. And therefore, we are still lacking something else. But as we continued, politics, I must put it, became more important in the country than all these other things. And we started stressing on university education. As university education was being stressed, many people, especially parents, started seeing TVET as for poor people, as people who are not very capable of pursuing a comprehensive education. And therefore, they were low level. And what happened is that people started having low opinion about the TVET. And as time went on, we came to the extent where we started even converting the institutions which were offering TVET curriculum into universities. You can remember even Mombasa Polytechnic is now Technical University of Mombasa, Kenya Polytechnic is Technical University of Kenya, and so forth. Now, this became even worse. In fact, recently we stopped that phenomenon, because then we started ignoring the TVET sector, and we were concentrating more on the university. Yeah. And this has put us where we are. But we have now taken back, and because of the TVET Act, and we are now working on it properly. And the government has taken a serious issue, and they started promoting the TVET sector very seriously.
Yes, definitely, Professor. And even as this discussion continues, I want to cross over to my colleague, Brian George Otieno, who is at St. Kizito in Mwihoko. I hope, Brian, you've gotten the instruments that you need to demonstrate to us what exactly is happening on the ground. Have you?
Sure enough, as you can see live on broadcast, I am geared up properly to be one of the learners in this TVET, and if perhaps we have a chance, I would enroll. But then, as Prof has rightly put it, 6 universities are under the TVET Act. 81 vocational training institutions are under the TVET, and we are here at one of them in St. Kizito in Mwihoko in Githurai. We're going to talk to them. 7 years on after that act was put to place, Government has poured in, has invested heavily into this, and so we want to just take a focus into what the learners have been able to learn, the challenges, if any, and we want to give much more emphasis on exactly how this training is going to help them in their job market. And so to speak to us first, I'm going to talk to this young lady here. She's going to tell us exactly what she has been learning. This is the arc welding department. We'll be able to show you, after this, we'll be able to show you the carpentry section. But first, we want to talk to her so that she tells us exactly what she has been learning, for how long she has been learning this, and to give us much more of her projects and what she's going to achieve. Karibu sana.
Okay, my name is Anne Mutindi, and I joined currently I'm doing arc welding. I joined school on last year May, that is 2019. I did my course for 3 months. After 3 months, we were distributed to attachments, which we also did for 3 months. And thereafter, now we are back to do exams.
What has the experience been like being in this TVET institution?
Yes?
What has the experience been like?
Oh, my experience being like is I've learned a lot. I've got a lot of skills. I also thank the institute that not only welding, it also offers some courses, and that we are able to grow like life skills and much more.
So you're confident that the skills that you've learned here are going to be beneficial in your work life?
Exactly.
In what way specifically?
Like I can just open my company, yeah, or I can employ myself. So it's so benefiting.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And she is confident. She says that she is able to even employ other people and start her own business out of this. So it is not just a question of getting skills for employment. It is also a matter of getting skills and getting the know-how, the technical know-how to be able to even start your own business. I'm going to talk to another gentleman right here who is equally doing amazing work. We're going to hear from him. But that if the ladies out there have been thinking that this is maybe a gentleman's only world, then they have a challenge. They are also bridging the gender gap. And so we're going to talk to this gentleman. He is going to tell us his name, and we're going to hear much more from him. Kubwa, habari yako?
Mzuri.
What's your name?
I'm Calvin Ochieng Nyadenge.
Okay, Calvin. Thank you so much. So how long have you been here?
I've been here for the last 1 year.
For the last 1 year?
Yeah.
Experience yako imekuwaje hapa?
Imekuwa juu sana.
Okay.
Experience vitu mingi under welding.
Okay.
So far hadi nikiwa huko nje bado mimi hufanya jua kali zingine.
Okay.
Under welding. So it's something that has I can encourage any youth outside there to at least attain. Yeah.
Unaona kama the skills are beneficial to you?
Exactly.
Okay. So what are some of the projects you've been able to work on?
Under the projects, under welding, we have so many different kinds of projects. Okay. So here we are taught how to weld. We have different types of welding. We have overhead, flat, we call them overhead, flat joint. Okay. There are different kinds of, so we are also taught how to weld the pipes. You know, under the government, we are talking about under piping, the pipes they were using to transport oil and other stuffs. So we are also taught how to weld. Anyway, that we weld in such a way that there is no any leakage you can experience. So that is what I'm talking about.
Nice. Have you experienced any challenges whatsoever as you train in this institution?
I think the challenges are there, but I usually face them positively, and that's why I'm here right now.
Any specific ones you can name?
They're just normal ones, maybe story nanja. But I think they're just normal ones. Simba.
Okay. So thank you so much. That's been Calvin. It's been speaking to us. I'm going to take one more in this place of arc welding. Noah, I'm just going to hear the perspective of one more. As you can hear from Calvin, he's been able to take on other jobs even before he finishes his training. And so I'm going to speak to this gentleman who is doing pipe ranking right here. Mkubwa, how are you, sir?
I'm fine.
Tuambie jina lako?
Jina langu ni Caleb Moseti.
Caleb Moseti. How long have you been here? Umekuwa hapa kwa muda gani?
Nimekuwa hapa for 2 years.
2 years. Experience yako imekuwaje hapa?
Iko sawa. na naendelea kwa fili wake vizuri kabisa. Na natumaini itakuwa mzuri zaidi. Yeah.
Tuambie more about the training ambayo umepata hapa katika taasisi hii ya ufundi.
Hii training nimeipata itanisaidia kiufundi, nilikuwa chini. Sasa hii nitafanya kazi yangu, niko confidence na nashughulikia watu wangu sasa. Yeah.
Unapania kutafuta ajira ama unaenda kujianzishia mahali pako pa kazi?
Naendelea nayo kutafuta ajira, bado naifanyia saa hii kazi. Huwa nikiitwa mahali popote nafanya kazi. Comfortable. Yeah.
Kuna changamoto yote ambayo umeweza kukutana nayo katika ukufunzi wako hapa katika taasisi hii?
Ya ile changamoto nimekutana nayo kununua tools ukianza. Hiyo ndio changamoto kubwa sana. Lakini ukipata tools hakuna challenge, kazi inaendelea kama kawaida. Na hata kuna watu wengine huko mazinani wangependa wakiniona nafanya, wanaona hiyo ni disability, ni kama hawezi. Lakini kwa roho yangu naipenda sana. Ndio sababu nijitolea disability bila, yani ukiwa mlemavu si haimaanishi huwezi fanya chochote, unaelewa? Yeah.
Sasa kwa mwisho sasa tuambie ni labda ni projects zipi ambazo umeweza kuwork on ukapata kumaliza na zikaonekana na zikatumika huko nje?
Ya kwa zile project nimefanya mambo ya plumbing, nimeweka maji kwa kijiji ambao watu wanatumia, wananiona nimeweka nini picha zangu kwa nini, wakiniona wananiita. Haya, kuna wale wanajua ground pale, wanajua mimi unafanya kazi comfortably, so naenda pale napima maji, nafanyia the community, wanafurahia sana.
Nashukuru sana. Sasa asante sana. Great. Noah, as you can hear from the trainees right here, they are getting a lot of experience that is enabling them even to get a few gigs and jobs before finishing their training. Caleb Moseti is saying that disability is not inability. And so that is the situation right here from St. Kizito in Mwihoko. We'll be giving you much more from the carpentry section, and also we'll be going to the electronic section. We'll be showing you a lot more of what these students have been able to train. Back to you in studio now.
Definitely, Brian George, looking sharp. You're going to the carpentry section later on, so should we refer to you as, Dr. George, from the way you look? But at this particular moment, we're going to take a short break right here on KTN Special. We'll be back with more.
This is KTN News.